Anger is an inevitable emotion in our lives. How do you respond when you're overwhelmed by it? Have you ever regretted losing control of your temper? But is suppressing anger always the best solution or a true virtue? Simply holding in your anger won't resolve the issue. In fact, you might have seen situations where someone expressed their anger, but ended up being applauded or even supported by their opponents. Today, let's learn how to channel your anger effectively to gain allies and explore what wise individuals do in such situations. First, if you want to get the other person on your side, even when you're angry, avoid starting with negative words. This concept relates to expressive suppression theory in psychology. The key to expressing anger effectively is to avoid beginning with abusive or critical language. Instead, control your emotions calmly and guide the conversation toward constructive dialogue. You may have noticed that some people seem impressive, or even receive applause after expressing their anger. These individuals never start with negative language. When you begin by yelling or using negative words, the other person is likely to shut down and lose interest in the conversation before truly hearing you out. This approach is even more crucial in public settings. If your anger causes someone to feel humiliated, the focus will shift away from their wrongdoing, and people will concentrate more on the insult they experienced. Consequently, your anger is poorly conveyed, and you may come across as having anger management issues. Even if you have a strong relationship with the other person, expressing anger improperly can damage that connection irreparably. Therefore, start with positive language. As mentioned earlier, expressing anger can indicate that the relationship is important enough to engage in meaningful communication. If it weren't, you'd likely ignore the situation altogether. So, no matter how upset you are, you can start with positive words instead of negative ones. For example, you could say, "I always enjoy spending time with you, and am grateful for it. However, I felt that what happened this time crossed a line, and it made me angry." As the old Eastern saying goes, even a cornered rat deserves a chance to escape, no matter how wrong the other person may be. Avoid overwhelming them with negativity. Instead, give them room to acknowledge their mistake. Starting with a courteous and positive tone helps ensure that the other person doesn't feel attacked, making them more open to listening. Observers, too, will appreciate and respect the way you handle the situation. Second, don't tolerate unjust behavior. Why do we often suppress our anger in close relationships? We fear hurting the other person or damaging the relationship. However, this strategy doesn't work with everyone. Some people may take your patience as a sign of weakness. If the relationship isn't significant, you might choose to ignore it. But if it's an ongoing connection, a smarter approach is needed. When someone continually crosses boundaries or makes unreasonable demands, it's best to express your true feelings. Research by psychologist Paul Ekman indicates that expressing genuine emotions reduces misunderstandings and internal conflict, leading to better relationships. In many cases of marriage counseling, quicker reconciliation occurs when one partner honestly expresses their dissatisfaction. Remember, you are the owner of your feelings. So focus on expressing the anger you feel. Instead of blaming the other person, simply articulate how their actions made you feel in that situation. This approach ensures they understand your emotional state, without feeling personally attacked. Third, clarify the cause of your anger and choose the right time to express it. To address your anger effectively, break down your response into 4 stages: observation, feeling, desire, and request. For example, if you're angry because your ideas were dismissed during a meeting, identify the root cause of your anger. Instead of saying, "I'm angry because you ignored my comment," You could say, "I felt upset because my suggestion seemed overlooked. I hope my opinion will be considered more in future meetings." Timing is also crucial. According to emotional regulation theories, it's better to pause and calm down before reacting. Take a moment to breathe, cool off, and then objectively assess what made you angry. When you express yourself positively rather than negatively, you'll find that you don't need to overreact to be recognized and respected by those around you. For instance, instead of reacting immediately to your boss's unfair treatment, step away to gather your thoughts, and then return for a more productive conversation. Fourth, don't dismiss anger as inherently bad. Harness its power instead. While excessive anger is problematic, a complete absence of it is also an issue. Anger can be channeled as positive energy. When expressed appropriately, anger serves a vital psychological role. It acts as a self-protection mechanism against injustice, and indignation toward wrongdoing can become a catalyst for societal change. Additionally, anger can facilitate communication by highlighting problems that need to be addressed. When we examine relationships, whether in the workplace or in school, we often notice that some degree of conflict or tension can actually revitalize productivity. Which departments perform better? Those where everyone gets along, or those where there are occasional moderate arguments? At first glance, friendly departments seem like they would perform better. But surprisingly, studies show that relationships that are too harmonious can reduce tension and competition, leading to decreased work efficiency. Whether the relationship is formal or informal, a little tension acts as a stimulant, reducing mistakes and increasing efficiency. However, it is crucial to avoid justifying high-pitched voices, verbal abuse, or personal attacks under the guise of maintaining appropriate tension. Ultimately, anger is not necessarily a negative emotion. Its impact depends on how it is managed and expressed. From an evolutionary perspective, anger is one of the most important emotions developed for human survival and reproduction. It is part of our survival instinct, designed to respond to risks or threats. And the expression of anger against behaviors that threaten society has historically contributed to strengthening group bonds and stability. By managing anger healthily and expressing it appropriately, we can all cultivate the wisdom that earns respect from everyone.